Hello everybody. Today we're going to continue to revisit our subtraction strategies, but day 2, and we're basically going to be taking a look at some different types of word problems that would involve subtraction. So let's get started. The first example I have here is a pretty straightforward type of subtraction problem that most people think of, where you have something like Mrs. Davis made 8 loaves of bread. She ate 2 of them. How many loaves of bread are left? So you are given the 2 parts, the 2 numbers, and you've eaten some, you've given away some, you've lost some, and so you subtract to find the answer. So that's the first kind of problem. So here I have blank popsicles were donated to Floodbrook to celebrate the end of the school year. Blank popsicles were eaten. How many popsicles were left? So with this example, you'll want to make sure that you choose 2 numbers. Again, make it challenging and appropriate for where you are in your understanding, and make sure that it makes sense. So if I put something like 327 popsicles were donated to Floodbrook and 562 popsicles were eaten, will that make sense? Absolutely not, right? You can't eat more popsicles than what were donated. So make sure that whatever numbers you use are going to make sense. I could switch it around and do 562 here and 327 here, right? And then our number sentence would simply be 562 minus 327. You would go ahead and solve. We talked about strategies yesterday, so if you don't remember, go back and revisit that. I'm not going to talk about that today. And then you'll write your statement. How many popsicles were left? There were, however many they end up being, blank popsicles left. Okay? So that's the first type of problem. It's the pretty straightforward one. I would love to see if you decide to choose one of these problems or make your own to challenge yourself to a different type. So let's take a look at another type of problem. Here's the next one. There is a contest to guess how many jelly beans are in a jar. Kylie guessed that there were blank jelly beans. There were actually blank jelly beans in the jar. How many fewer jelly beans were in the jar than Kylie guessed? So this is a little confusing, right? You've got to think about what the wording is, right? It says how many fewer jelly beans were in the jar than Kylie guessed. That gives you a good hint right here. First of all, we're comparing the amount of jelly beans. This is similar to me saying that Kylie had 10 M&Ms and I had 5 M&Ms. How many fewer M&Ms do I have than Kylie? I have 5 fewer. We're not adding these numbers. And if we look at it, how many fewer jelly beans were in the jar than Kylie guessed, we know that the number of jelly beans in the jar has to be smaller than the number of jelly beans that Kylie guessed. So once again, make sure that the numbers you choose are going to make sense for the word problem as you fill it in. So if Kylie guesses 293 jelly beans, and we know that there's fewer jelly beans in the jar based on the word problem, we need to make sure that our second number is less. So you could do something like 178, okay? And once again, you would write your number sentence out. 293 minus 178 would tell you how many fewer jelly beans were in the jar than what Kylie guessed. You can imagine a jar here, right? Here's all the jelly beans up to the top. Kylie's guess was 293, but what's actually in there is 178. So you're going to compare those numbers. You're going to find out what's in between. And once again, you'll show your work and you'll write your statement. Okay, so that's a comparison word problem. You're comparing how many of one to another, and to do that comparison, you will subtract. Let's take a look at one more type of word problem. There's lots more, but I'm going to keep it simple for today, but if you want to come up with your own, you are welcome to. Mrs. Thorley planted blank seeds in the garden. Then Mrs. Casano came and planted some more. Now there are a total of blank seeds in the garden. How many many seeds did Mrs. Casano plant? So in this problem, we're actually sort of adding some number of seeds, right? We've got Mrs. Thorley planting some number of seeds in the garden, and then Mrs. Casano comes and plants some more. So now we have a total, look at that, a total of blank seeds in the garden. So this is an addition problem, but to solve it, you actually use subtraction, and here's why. Let's say Mrs. Thorley plants, 754 seeds in the garden. She's busy planting. She's done a lot of planting. So we're going to put that here. She's got 754 seeds in the garden. Mrs. Casano came and planted some more. That goes here. We don't know how many more she came and planted, right? But now there are a total of, let's say, 902 seeds in the garden. So we know we end up with a total of 902 seeds. So in order to figure out how many seeds Mrs. Casano plants, you're either going to do 754 and count up to 902, which is a counting up strategy for solving a subtraction problem, right? So you can use a number line where you go from 754 and count up to 902, okay? Or you can solve it by doing subtraction, 902 minus 754, and that will give you how many seeds Mrs. Casano has planted, okay? So think about, when you read the sample problems that you get to solve, think about what numbers would make sense. Make sure that you get the correct numbers in the correct spots that match your question that you're asking. And if you decide to create your own word problem, I'd like you to challenge yourself not to just do a basic one like, I had this many items and I lost this many, or I gave this many away, or I ate them and now I have this many. I'd like you to think about trying a comparison or a somewhat more complex subtraction problem. Let me know if you need any help. Good luck. And